All right, we are live here again. Don, I just spoke to you a few days ago, and we're back at it again. For those who don't know me, I'm Ahmed Baba, journalist here on Substack. Don, thanks for talking to me again here. I mean, since Thursday, it feels like the whole world has shifted since we last talked, right, man?
It has. And look, I've been talking about this live on my show, and I was just, we were supposed to go live a little bit earlier, but as I was on with, the Jolly Good Ginger, I was on with the Jolly Good Ginger. We were doing a live feed, a live stream. And then Donald Trump says in the Oval Office, anybody who gets out there and protests, you will be met with force if you protest the parade.
Exactly.
What is this?
I have no clue.
Are we living in America right now?
I have no clue. And also, I just want to make sure, are people coming in here? Can you see anyone coming in on your side?
Coming in.
Okay, mine is the one that's totally glitching. Okay, because it looks like it's all messed up. But people are coming in here. Thank you. Subscribe. Tap that button at the top. Hit that like button. And Donald Trump is saying we're going to see this in other major cities. This is clearly a pretext. He's deployed 200 National Guardsmen, 700 Army military personnel here on the ground. And honestly, from what we can see, it is clearly he's escalating this because he's trying to take credit, right? So one of the points I want to hit is that he's saying now, if it wasn't for me and the National Guard, we wouldn't have had this thing under control, right? But LAPD had it under control,
right,
before he even came, right?
He's the one that threw the monkey wrench into the thing.
Exactly.
Look, I've been listening to the mayor of Los Angeles, Karen Bass. The people who are out there, the people of Los Angeles, even the protesters, and the police. The Los Angeles Police Department is quite adept at dealing with protesters.
Yes.
This was a show for Donald Trump. This is the pre-show, Ahmed, before his big show on Saturday with his big military parade that he's so proud of. He wants to garner attention. He wants to make examples out of people. He wants to look like a strong man leading up to that parade. This is the pre-show. And sadly, he is making examples out of people who are fighting back.
Exactly. And you're spot on there because he wants to show strength, right? His version of strength. He wants to do this authoritarian chest beating. He wants to appear as if he's really pushing back on this and being strong. But in reality, he's not, right? Like in reality, he is coming from a place of weakness. So I think just to give the context for people, I always like to talk about like why this is even happening, right? He is not meeting his deportation numbers. He is not meeting his promises. You have Stephen Miller out here pushing a really understaffed ICE. Go hit 3,000 a day. Go and try to wrap up everyone. And the Wall Street Journal, a little bit before we came on, dropped an article saying Miller's pushing them to go for these warrantless raids, to go to Home Depot, to like not target criminals anymore, to wrap up productive, undocumented immigrants that pay $100 billion annually in taxes. So this is all performative cruelty because he can't meet his deportation numbers because there simply is not an invasion of millions of criminal gang members, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, he wants to use what's happening in California, and it's the perfect venue because of the Latino population in California, because of the immigrants in California, because of the migrants. We have such a big Latino population. And so he wants, and it happened, I believe, in a Mexican neighborhood. So he wants to demonize, criminalize, to show those people in a bad light out there fighting, and they're out there, they instigated, the people fight back, they make them look like the things that they want, that they're calling them criminals, illegal, alien, that kind of thing, un-American. Look at these animals that are out there. So that's what it is. It's all for a show. I hate to keep saying that, but this is all for a show. And this is tyranny. This is what it is.
Yeah, it is. And it's really interesting the language he's using, right? He's trying to call them insurrectionists because he wants to invoke the Insurrection Act because his troops aren't allowed legally to engage with civilian law enforcement. They can't implement or push civilian law enforcement because it's illegal under the Posse Comitatus Act, right? So he has to invoke the Insurrection Act in order to actually inflict more force. So he was hoping he would be able to deploy them it would ratchet things up. But what we're seeing, the protests have kind of, been a little bit, they kind of calmed down on their own. And like today, there's not really anything happening. Last night, there wasn't, from what I could see, anything too insane that's happened yet. But like, for just to put it into context, these people who are torching the Waymos, like this is a very small group of people. The LAPD themselves said that the protests are mostly peaceful.
And it is in a small part of town. Los Angeles is huge. You would think like, oh, Los Angeles is burning, and he's like, without the military. He's saying from the Oval Office today, without the military, that Los Angeles would be on fire. And then the mayor is saying we were perfectly fine by ourselves. But yes, this is also a small part of Los Angeles. It's downtown, and then I think it's one other area. The entire city of Los Angeles is not on fire. They're not under, you don't see military people on the street. You don't see protesters on the street. But if you're looking at it, if you're watching it on linear television, you're thinking, oh my gosh, Los Angeles, it's up in flames. It's up in smoke. They're tearing the city down. And that indeed is not the case.
Exactly. And that's what they're doing. They're doing anecdote extrapolation. That's what these right-wing networks do best, right?
Mhm.
They're,
Well,
they're go-
it's not just the right wing networks. I
well, you're
appreciate
right.
that the reporters are out there. It's all of them, right? Because and they need to put it into context that this is not, I hope that I don't watch cable news anymore, but I hope that they're putting it into context and saying, this is a small part of Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Donald Trump is doing it because it's a show. And then because you're right. This is the article that you're
Hmm.
talking about right here. And he said, after deportations fell short of President Trump's campaign promises, federal agents summoned to a meeting in Washington were told to just go out there and arrest illegal aliens.
Yep, exactly. And we're also seeing right there, another quote from this, basically leaving longstanding practice, and they want to direct them to go to convenience stores, Home Depots, day workers. And again, the whole rhetoric around undocumented immigrants is that they're supposed to be, kind of just leeches on the system, right? They're not contributing. And you're going to workplaces? You're targeting the migrants that we would want to have here, the migrants that actually do pay taxes. Every time I say that, some person's like, I didn't know that undocumented immigrants pay 100 billion in taxes a year, close to that. And that's what they're doing now. They're trying to expand this pool of people. Trump rolling back temporary protected status, grabbing migrants off the street, and also as they appear in their courthouse check-ins, man. Their courthouse check-ins. Like they're trying to follow the rules.
What do we do, man? I was just on, and I'm nervous because I think it's a trick, and it's a trick and a trap. By the way, make sure you smash the heart so that more people become aware of our conversation. It's a trick and a trap because
Yeah.
if you don't get out there, then it's like you're complicit. If you get out there, then it's an invitation for them to make an example out of you.
Exactly. And also just want to echo, smash that subscribe button, smash the like button. My Substack Live has been glitching. So on my end, it says only one person is watching, which I know is not true because there's people coming in the comments and I can't even see comments. But if you guys are leaving comments, I'll read them afterwards. Don, if you see something cool in there that pops up, feel free to share if anyone's
Yeah,
saying anything nice.
I'm looking at the comments, and people are saying, um, rumor has it the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers were in the group to stir the violence. I don't know if that's true. I'd like to see some of that. Law-abiding citizens that work Trump regime is a joke.
Hmm.
But people are saying, basically they're concerned about getting out there.
Yeah.
I was on with Ginger. Wait, let's see what's happening here. Someone said something about, I don't watch cable news anymore either, especially since you left CNN. That's a whole nother thing. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. But look, here's the
Yeah.
thing. I think people are afraid of getting out there and getting their heads cracked. And then I was on with Jolly Good Ginger earlier, just before you, and I changed my mind because I was like, I don't know. It's a trick. I have no idea. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. And I think that you need to get out there and you
Yeah.
need to be willing to sacrifice something. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to protest. I did not know that Los Angeles was going to come to what it has come to, or otherwise I would have jumped on a plane. But I have
Mhm.
a feeling that this is going to spread around the country. I think it's going to spread to New York. And, it's just tough because I would love to go to Washington, D.C., but I also don't want to promote what he's doing. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
no, exactly. And your instinct of this going to other places. I saw you talking about this. I think on another appearance or something that you did, and Trump validated that in the Oval Office today, saying that he thinks other cities should expect ICE raids of this nature. Because the thing is, they're provocative in their own in their nature themselves. These are militarized ICE agents. Like the whole reason this happened is because they are wearing military gear, showing up in unmarked cars, and then they're just surrounding a Home Depot. That's going to disturb any community. They're grabbing community members that are well-meaning, productive immigrants, and I think that's where we saw some people fight back. But yeah, I agree, man. I think people shouldn't be deterred because that's what Trump wants. He wants us to be afraid. And just another core point is that the National Guard and the military, the troops that he's deployed so far, they haven't engaged with civilians yet. They're not allowed to. So they've been standing around these federal buildings and they haven't been able to actually engage. So like they're there for a fear factor and they want to do what I think people are now leading towards potentially feeling that they can't get out there. But you're right. I think you're right. They should get out there. And especially given what's happening and what could happen here in New York, we saw some like small protests, but I think people got to get out there, Don. I agree.
I I want to see. I think there was a thing about cost of. I think is it $135 million or something like that, or $35 million
Oh,
that
I
it's
think it
going to
was,
cost to
yeah.
send the Marines. Oh, $134 million. Pentagon estimates sending
Hmm.
Marines and National Guard to LA will cost $134 million. And we are paying for that. That is just to Los Angeles on that. That's not to the other cities that he says he's going to send it to. He's not only wasting money there. You should hear the people talking about him wasting money when he goes down to Palm Beach and all the assets that it takes there. And then there is something else that's going to cost like 30 some $million that he's doing. Not to mention the cost of this parade that you're paying
Oh
for as
yes, the
well.
parade. Yeah, it's just insane. And also on that deployment, Hegseth in a hearing today was saying they're going to leave them there for 60 days, which is wild. That's an occupation in a leaving the military deployed in a state for 60 days when protests are already not like we're not talking tens of thousands of people. Like these are protests LAPD can handle. And you're right that the cost and I think also the timing is important because it's not just it's this military parade, man. You've been warning about this parade for a little while now and what he's trying to signify there. Today in the Oval Office, he said any protest. He didn't say violent. He said any protest of the parade is going to warrant heavy force.
Yeah.
So,
It's going to be met with heavy force.
yeah, it's going to be met with heavy force. So he's already, and as we've been talking, like there's all this, this past hour, 2 hours, there's been all these new developments and rhetoric coming out.
I want to
Yeah,
know
man.
from the folks in the chat, tell me, are you going to get out there? Are you going to protest? How are you feeling about this? Because I would like to hear how you feel. Now, I will tell you something that I saw the tweet from from Gavin Newsom. I think it was yesterday when he showed members of the National Guard sleeping on the floors and hallways and with no place to rest with their gear as pillows. He sent them out there not prepared. And there are enough hotels, there are enough military bases in California to be able to house some of these people,
Hmm.
and he does not care.
Yeah, they have enough. They have no facilities. Like you said in that image, they're just laying on each other. They're laying on the ground. And the thing is, they're not even. It's not necessary. There's no. There's no need for them there. It's just there for a fear tactic, just so Trump could deploy them and say he's the one that calmed LA when he didn't. And it's really just a waste of resources. And then also the rhetoric, I think, targeting Newsom, saying that he would arrest him. Like this is just we're like I know we're kind of like I guess we're used to this by now. But like you said in the last time we talked, like we can't be normalizing this. I feel like everyone it's just kind of desensitized to him making threats of jailing a governor for
Yeah.
disagreeing with his immigration policy. It's just it feels like we're slipping kind of fast there, and I'm just trying to figure out. Like I mean, Newsom sued. Hopefully, there's a court injunction on some of this stuff.
Yeah, but
But
then who's going to comply with it? What are they going to do? What are they going to do?
courts don't have
Um,
militaries.
so I asked the people I met, they're going, I'm going Saturday in Omaha, Nebraska. That's what SP says. Yes,
Nice.
however, I'll be in a small town, says Joan Allen. If we don't, he wins, which is a very good point made by Tree Lady. We have to call our Congress people, it says. So, look, wow. Look, I just think that you have to be willing to sacrifice something. You got to be peaceful. We have to take a lesson from the civil rights movement in the 1960s and the protests, and we have to keep people like John Lewis in mind, who said, if you're going to get into good trouble, then go get into good trouble. If you're not going to do it now, when are you going to do it? You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. And I think it's this moment where your community members are being targeted, where there are people who contribute to society, who are here trying to make a good living. They're your neighbor, they're your, this is the time to step up. You don't wait till they come for you, right? And if you use the privilege of your citizenship, I would say, if you're a citizen, you were born here, there are other people who are putting their own status here online. There's people who are undocumented that are protesting. I think people need to stand up. I think this it's good we're seeing. Obviously, we want more of the peaceful one, like you're saying. We need to learn from the civil rights movement and create more of that nonviolent practice. And it needs to be more organized. I do think a lot of that violence is outside. Is some agitators because
Yeah.
that are just exploiting the situation.
You always
Frankly,
have a knucklehead, but the
yeah,
violence. I'm not worried about the violence from that. I'm worried about the violence from the state.
exactly.
You know, I'm worried about the violence from the state on American citizens.
Yeah,
The violence from the state on people who are exercising their First Amendment right, the freedom of expression. It is beyond sad that this is where our country has come to. But you know what, Ahmed? Elections have consequences, and a lot of people have fucked around, and they're finding out right now. You may be looking at Los Angeles, saying, "Oh, I don't like Los Angeles." By the way, especially if you're in the middle of the country or you're in a rural area or a red area, and you don't realize California is paying for you. It is a donor, as Gavin Newsom says. Gavin Newsom says, "We," meaning them. We are a donor state. All right, fine. We'll take away the tax money and see how you feel about that when you can't fix your bridges or afford your water system. You know what I mean? Or you can't
yeah.
afford to repair your roads, or you can't get internet connection or Wi-Fi, or the telephone lines that run through your town that you won't be able to get them because your tax base does not support all the shit that you need in order to have a working society. And you don't realize from the big blue states where you have all of these people who are paying all of these taxes that you are basically on the welfare for us who live in New York when we are the donor state that's sending money to you. They don't understand that.
No, exactly. And Trump is purposely targeting LA because he wants to build, like, for example, he's not targeting Texas or Kentucky or one of these states that actually would, if they would be having federal money withdrawn, they would be heavily impacted. But like you said, Newsom, I think it's what, $80 billion that California pays to the federal government as a surplus. Like it's just it's empty threats. You can't cut off it's really Newsom that holds the cards there. But honestly, I just find it's just wild that they chose California as a starting point when they could have chose any other haven. They could have chose Texas. He's not choosing a red state. He wants this conflict. And now as he's heading into the military parade, it's like he's trying to create, he wants us to be in crisis. Like it's all of his, he's trying to flex more powers, like the emergency powers he invokes with the tariffs, the fake invasion, to try to invoke the Aliens Enemies Act to deport those migrants to CCOT. It's all on the same thread. He's trying to create fake crises so that he can invoke more executive power.
Yeah. Ahmed Baba, until we see each other again.
Yeah.
Be safe out there.
Appreciate you coming on, man.
Yeah, and let's try to talk. Let's try to do something else before the protests on Saturday. Okay? Are
Yeah.
you going to go out there?
On the one in New York?
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're going out to because there are going to be protests here as well. The 14th, is
Mhm.
that Saturday or Sunday? That's Saturday, right?
I think it's Saturday. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I know it's gonna be most popping in DC, so we're gonna see.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah,
I'll see you
we'll
soon,
talk.
brother.
Appreciate you hopping
Thank
on,
you
man.
very much. Bye-bye.
and the technical difficulties and all. But appreciate you, brother. Everybody, subscribe. Hit it up. Don Lemon Show. All right.
Bye. Thank you. You as well.
All
Ahmed
right,
Baba.
brother.
See you.
See you.